it sounds very like morbid and creepy, and I mean in a way it is. Hey guys, it's Molly here for another video, and if I sound sick, it's because I'm sick, so that's all. I haven't done a story time in a really long time, and I mentioned this specific story very briefly in a 2 Truths and a Lie video that I did with the React cast. That video will be linked below. And ever since then, people have been DMing me on Instagram. Go follow. Self-promo. People have been tweeting me, commenting on videos, asking for the Coffin story. This might lose me subscribers, but here I am today to tell it. Please don't think less of me. Please don't think I'm weird. Yes, the title is true. I have climbed into a coffin with a dead body. It happened. I have 2 things to save myself with. I was only 4 years old, and it was a relative. It was not a random person. Take that for what you will. Let's get into the story. So growing up, I have never had like very many family members in Canada. I live in Los Angeles now, but I was born and raised in the Toronto area, and I've never had much family in Canada because both sides of my family are from Ireland. And so most of my extended family lives in Ireland. But my dad's parents lived in Toronto. My dad's dad passed away when I was 4 years old, and his mom now lives in England with her new husband. But at the time, like growing up, my grandfather, Grandy, we were so close. He was like, we were bonded. We were best friends. He taught me how to close the lids on markers so they didn't dry out. He was like my favorite. Like every time there was family get-togethers, it was he and I taking on the world. My birthday's February 8th, his is February 9th. We'd always like celebrate together and blow out our candles together. It was just like, him and I were bonded. We were hardcore best friends. When he passed away when I was 4, it was like devastation. Like so I just bawled and bawled and bawled. My parents couldn't believe it because they were like, usually when like people die and somebody's very young, they don't fully grasp it, they don't fully understand it. I understood it, and I was very upset about it. How upset was I about Grandy dying, Mom?
Ooh, a little over the top, maybe. I know, you were like super upset because you were really, really close to your granddad.
We were really bonded.
I was the youngest, of the grandchildren.
Yeah, I was like the baby grandchild. Like him and I were we were so close. He's like the reason I got diagnosed. Like he's the one who like told my parents to take me to the hospital and get me checked out when I was 6 months old. Like he and I were just very, very close. So it was really hard on me when he passed away. They had the visitation, and at the visitation, they did an open casket. So this was gonna be the last time I would like see my grandfather. During this, they at one point had all of us little ones, all the little cousins who had flown over from Ireland and England and everywhere. They sent us off into a separate room to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Now this girl was having none of it. None of it. I was not happy. I did not want to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was just crying. I was sobbing. I was making a big scene. So I snuck out of the room with the little cousins, and I went to the room where they were all having the visitation, and I started banging on the glass doors and screaming, crying, making a ruckus and a big scene. And so my parents came like out of the room another door and like came around to get me and try to console me, and they realized they weren't gonna be able to separate me from this room. I needed to be let back into the room with the adults and with my grandfather, because I wanted to be like by his side for as long as I could. So I was up, they kind of like left me standing at his like open casket. One thing that like I used to always do with my grandfather is I would comb his hair. He always wore a suit, just always wore a suit. Always had a comb in the pocket of his suit. And so whenever I would go over, I would like sit on the back of his armchair behind him and I would comb his hair. It was just one of our things that we would always do together. I found in the pocket of his suit, in the open casket, his comb. And I decided that I was gonna comb his hair for him, but I was a very tiny little 4-year-old girl, and it was a high up casket, and so obviously a logical thing to do to be able to reach is to climb into the casket and perch in the casket with his body and comb his hair. And so all the adults are like having drinks and chatting and like looking at pictures of him and like reminiscing and sharing stories. And there's like all of his friends and family members in this room. At some point my parents just turn and they see me just like peacefully sitting in the casket with my grandfather's body combing his hair. And they're like, oh my god, the child is in the casket. So I think they like kind of let me have my moment with him because they knew how like inconsolable I was about his death. So they came over at a certain point and like my dad like had a little talk with me about it and like coaxed me out of the casket, and they had me kiss him goodbye, and his face was obviously like cold, and so I wouldn't kiss him on the face, so I kissed his eyebrow because it was warm, not cold, and said goodbye. But I was like just sobbing. I was so upset. So that was like my peaceful goodbye moment with him, was like sitting in his casket combing his hair and just having our little time that we always used to have together. So it sounds very like morbid and creepy, and I mean in a way it is, to say like, yeah, I crawled into a coffin with a dead body, but like, you know, for me I was like this 4-year-old girl who just didn't know any better and loved my grandfather and didn't want to say goodbye and didn't understand. And actually, my poor parents, it was a very difficult time. They were renovating a house. I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa less than 2 weeks after my grandfather died. My grandfather died. It was just like a lot was happening during the like time of his death, when all the family was coming over for the funeral and everything. My brother and I both got head lice, which is a nightmare, and I choked on a chicken bone at Pizza Hut while stuck in a high chair that I was too old to sit in but insisted on sitting in anyways. So I was really putting my parents through a lot during this time of our lives. But it just shows, you know, the drama started young with me, didn't it, Mom?
Oh yes, Molly. Drama started young.
I was dramatic from a very young age. They knew I was born to be an actress. And
Lots
here,
of funny games.
Here I am on YouTube. So, what do they call it? Like acting for people with no talent? Is that what this is? Anyways, that's the story. I know a lot of you wanted to hear it, so there you have it. That's how it went down. I can forever say that happened. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, found it interesting, kind of weird. Comment below if anything similar has happened to you. I don't know. Give it a thumbs up if you found it entertaining in some capacity, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.